And salam sejahtera, selamat datang and welcome to program Jom Sembang Air or Let's Talk Water. So my sincere apologies for the technical glitch. I guess that's what happened when you have boomers and Gen Xers trying to figure out all this digital technology. So truly apologize for these the glitches that we face in the beginning part of this program. So this program is organized by Forum Maya Malaysia, FOMCA and WeCamp. So they're doing plenty of good work. If you want to know what are the activities and programs that they're doing, please go and check out their Facebook page and website, get to know their activities. That could be something that you would love to participate or even contribute. So go check it out. A bit brief on this particular program. This program is actually themed around dissecting water disruption. So we want to really understand the entire nexus involving various segments involved when it comes to water disruption. It's not really a very straightforward issue, as simple as opening a tap and having a water, or opening a tap and not having a water. So there's plenty of things to understand and discover. So this program was designed to be having conversation around dissecting water disruption. And we have a total of 3 series, 9 parts. For this particular first series, we are having conversation on unbundling water disruption or membongkar rasa gangguan air. And for the first panel discussion on 2nd March, kita telah membincangkan impact sosial akibat daripada gangguan air. For the program number 2 ni, panel kedua on 30th March, we are going to have a conversation about understanding water disruption. So this particular program akan jadi lebih teknikal, lebih merujuk kepada pengoperasian dan cara pengurusan apabila kaedah atau mekanisme pengurusan apabila water disruption dibenarkan dan berlaku. So what is being done? So before I go further into this conversation, I want to introduce the 2 panelists that we have here today. Engineer Azrul, if you can actually on your video, I'm sure everyone want to see Engineer Azrul. Thank you, Engineer Azrul. So Engineer Azrul is a former colleague from SPAN and a friend still, and he is it's have a very interesting spectrum of job that Engineer Azrul have been involved. Dia adalah former jurutera awam civil engineer from Perpadanan Urus Air Selangor. After that, it became Syabas. On top of that, he joined Jabatan Audit Negara. So that means kalau nak tahu rahsia-rahsia industri air ni, memang Engineer Azrul is the person lah. Tapi hari ni kita tak nak rahsia. Kita nak tahu benda pengoperasian dengan teknikal je. After that, Engineer Azrul joined SPAN and currently dia adalah pengarah bahagian operasi wilayah Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara. So that is Engineer Azrul. So we'll be hearing a lot from him today, and hopefully because we unable to get our water operators to participate in this conversation, we do hope that probably Engineer Azrul can share the insight of how water operators manage water disruption from his experience a couple of years back. Maybe things dah berubah, tetapi I think it's still wealth of information that we'd love to hear from you. Our second panelist is Simon Chan. He's a good friend of mine. He has 20 years of experience in consulting, engineering consulting industry. He's a civil engineer from University of Plymouth, UK. He has been involved in developing sustainable water resource management solutions, as well as smart real-time environmental monitoring systems. And Simon has been holding various senior positions with several international engineering consulting firms, and he have carried out projects from in Southeast Asia, Australia, Middle East, and UK. For that reason, I really think today we can hear from one man, Engineer Azrul, who has been working in the operator, joining audit department, and then came to SPAN, who has entire spectrum of our national industry, and Simon, who had opportunity to work in various countries, and maybe today we can hear how do they fare. Maybe Simon, after listening to Azrul, he will say that Malaysia is doing much better. So let's see how things happen today. And Simon also have done a lot of work in relation to hydrology, hydraulic modeling, water resource management, and asset management. He's a nature enthusiast, and when he's not working, he enjoys hiking and trailing. So that is something that I'm very well aware of. So with that, before kita mula go into the detailed conversation on understanding this water disruption, what is the mechanism involved when come to water disruption? What is water disruption? Categories of water disruption. I would like to first ask Engineer Azrul to explain what is SPAN? Apa fungsi SPAN? I'm pretty sure I'm sure ramai tahu apa tu SPAN. Tapi I think this is also an opportunity for those yang tak tahu SPAN to learn about SPAN. What is SPAN? Apa fungsi dia? Dan siapakah penggiat industri yang tertakluk di bawah bidang kawal selia SPAN? Over to you.
Okay, terima kasih Puan Pelita. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat malam. Apa itu SPAN? SPAN adalah Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara atau singkatannya SPAN, sebuah badan kawal selia ataupun regulatory body yang menyelia dan mengawal selia seluruh perkhidmatan bekalan air dan perkhidmatan pembentungan di semenanjung Malaysia dan wilayah Persekutuan Labuan. Secara ringkasnya, SPAN adalah mengawal selia dari segi ekonomi, sosial, pengguna dan yang penting adalah dari segi teknikal. Dan kami di SPAN mengawal selia perkhidmatan industri air berdasarkan akta yang khusus. Akta dikenali sebagai Akta Industri Perkhidmatan Air IPA 2006 ataupun Akta 655 yang telah berkuatkuasa pada tahun 2008. Saya ingin memberikan penekanan di sini bahawa SPAN tidak mengawal selia sumber air mentah. Sumber air mentah adalah di bawah bidang kuasa kerajaan negeri. Di dalam perlembagaan, sebagai contohnya di negeri Selangor, sumber air mentah dikawal selia oleh Lembaga Urus Air Selangor. Dan persoalan mengenai siapakah stakeholder yang tertakluk di bawah SPAN, antara yang utama adalah operator bekalan air. Operator bekalan air ini seperti Air Selangor di Selangor, di Melaka Syarikat Air Melaka Berhad, di Kelantan KSB, di Kedah Syarikat Air Darul Aman Sada, dan operator pembentungan yang utama di Malaysia ni adalah Indah Water Consortium. Dan selain itu kita juga mengawal selia dari segi pihak perunding, pihak kontraktor, tukang paip, penghilang pembekal dan sistem bekalan air, pembentungan awam yang mengikut perundangan yang telah ditetapkan. Dan skop kawal selia SPAN ini adalah daripada bekalan air yang terawat daripada loji sehinggalah diagihkan kepada pengguna melalui sistem bekalan air, seterusnya kepada meter air pengguna. Itu adalah skop di bawah kawal selia pihak SPAN. Dan cabaran utama SPAN pada ketika ini adalah memastikan permintaan bekalan air ini adalah mencukupi, demand dan supply ini mencukupi di negara kita, dan kita berharap bahawa Malaysia ini tidak mengalami krisis bekalan air. Okey, Puan Kunita.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Azrul. So that means memang betul lah kalau when we have water disruption, SPAN is one agency that we have to approach kalau kita tak dapat bekalan seperti yang perkhidmatan tu tidak diberikan seperti yang kita harapkan lah. So this is a right agency that for us to have. Okay, Engineer Azrul, sebelum kita go into the perincian berkaitan dengan gangguan bekalan air, saya nak set the landscape first, nak faham secara purata berapakah jumlah gangguan bekalan air yang direkodkan setiap tahun, sama ada secara keseluruhan bagi Semenanjung Malaysia, or is it based on negeri? Do you have such information or such data? Number one, where we can get this information? Number two, if you can share some of it with us.
Okey, sebelum saya pergi kepada data statistik yang ada direkodkan di SPAN, mungkin saya boleh jelaskan sikit apa itu gangguan air. So maksud gangguan bekalan air ini adalah boleh kita kategorikan bahawa sebagai gangguan air adalah disebabkan oleh tidak ada air, ataupun gangguan disebabkan oleh masalah tekanan rendah, gangguan disebabkan oleh kualiti air seperti air kotor dan air berbau. So berdasarkan rekod di SPAN, kita untuk kes-kes gangguan berjadual, kita ada menerima lebih kurang 162 permohonan pada tahun 2020 yang lalu, dan untuk kerja-kerja henti tugas yang tidak berjadual, kecemasan pula. Ada 700 kes permohonan kita terima pada tahun yang lepas yang melibatkan gangguan pembekalan air. Dan dari segi aduan, kalau saya boleh share di sini, di Selangor saja lebih kurang 450,000 aduan. Dan di Pulau Pinang ada dalam 290,000 aduan, di Terengganu mungkin dalam 30,000 aduan, dan negeri yang kecil Perlis lebih kurang dalam 10,000 aduan. So daripada aduan ini, setiap negeri ini dikenalpasti lebih kurang 40% adalah gangguan bekalan pasal mengenai paip pecah. Dan bila paip pecah ni dia akan melibatkan gangguan bekalan air kepada pengguna lah. Itu secara statistik, dan banyak faktor yang kita tahu bahawa paip pecah ni disebabkan oleh salah satunya adalah paip yang telah berusia di Malaysia ni lebih kurang berapa kilometer, dalam 20% dari jumlah paip yang ada di Malaysia ni adalah daripada jenis yang lama, iaitu jenis asbestos simen, yang jadi salah satu faktor berlakunya paip pecah.
Okay, yes, before I just nak get some clarity. You said gangguan bekalan air, dia punya definisi adalah air kotor atau berbau. What about tekanan? Jika tekanan tidak mencukupi, does it constitute as gangguan bekalan air atau?
Ya, ia adalah salah satu faktor ataupun aduan yang banyak diterima oleh pihak operator bekalan air di seluruh Malaysia. Dan SPAN memang menetapkan, memberi ketetapan bahawa tekanan air yang perlu dicapai di setiap premis meter pengguna ini adalah ketinggian 10 meter height yang perlu diterima oleh setiap pengguna. Dan ini adalah salah satu KPI yang telah ditetapkan untuk semua operator mematuhi.
Okay, so Simon, I just would like to get your feedback based on your experience. Does the countries that you have worked with consider water disruption similar to how Malaysia is defining it? Is either the water lack of quality, or whether there's a smell or lack of pressure that is promised? Is that what constitutes as water disruption from the countries that you have worked with? Can you share a little bit your insight?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Punita. I mean, generally, I think what is being measured in Malaysia in terms of KPI is very representative. I mean, it covers a lot of the key service factor that is required of a good water. The key differences I see here is that some of these countries, like I've been working in the UK for quite a number of years in my early years after I graduated. There are a lot of KPIs that are driven, they call it the minimum standard that's required to be delivered to the customer. All right. So for example, we talk about serving of notification. If there is actually a planned service interruption, what's the minimum time required to serve notice to the customers? Then there's also things like, where do they get the water supply from in the event there is a water service interruption? Where are the alternative water source? And also a schedule of when all this water are going to be restored. So these are actually, I believe, it's also been measured as well by SPAN, and that a lot of the water operators also serve this kind of notice to the customer. But what I want to get into here is that a lot of these operators are also governed in terms of, if they are not able to comply with some of this level of service, they would have to analyze and come up with a plan for how they plan to address some of this shortfall. So a lot of this would require analysis and studies to be carried out to understand the root cause, and then to come up with a plan that is cost effective. address the problem so that this problem doesn't get into, for example, in the UK, you have the regulator called Ofwat. So the Ofwat actually measures or keep a list of some of these important KPIs and ensure that the capital works that are being proposed by the water operators actually goes to addressing some of these KPIs, to improving the KPIs.
Okay, Simon, I think I will get back to you on these aspects. You said, no, there should be studies, or there should be analysis that need to be done. So I think I'll get back to you on that. But I would like to let you know that we are having some problem with your connection. So you were breaking off. So I was worried that we are losing a lot of content that we are sharing. If you can see something to that. And interim, I want to bring this conversation back to Engineer Azrul. Just now, Engineer Azrul said that he gave the first part of classification, kan Engineer Azrul, dia kata lebih kurang 40% of the cases. First and foremost, Selangor, correct me if I'm wrong, you kata Selangor ada 450,000 aduan. Dalam tu 40% memang case pipe pecah. So I wonder what is that balance 60% is all about. And on another note, how these water disruptions are classified. Sebab kadang-kadang bila saya terima notification on my app, saya akan tengok like schedule, unscheduled, dirancang, tidak dirancang, and all those things. If you can share a little bit on these categories of water disruption, beside punca disruption yang tadi you were mentioning, contohnya pipe pecah and all those things, right? That is the punca. But what about kategori gangguan? If you can share a little bit.
Okey, kategori gangguan selain daripada aduan pipe pecah adalah macam terdapat juga kes-kes mengenai aduan pengambilan, aduan tekanan air rendah yang telah saya jelaskan tadi, dan juga aduan-aduan lain yang selain daripada aduan bil tinggi dan juga meter rosak, dan itu adalah salah satu pembagian jenis-jenis aduan utama yang ada di
yang itu bukan
sistem aduan.
So yang aduan tu bukan really gangguan bekalan air lah, dia
part of inilah ada pada jenis-jenis kategori yang tambahan.
Okay.
Saya nak jelaskan di sini mengenai dua kategori utama gangguan, iaitu gangguan berjadual atau schedule dan gangguan yang tidak berjadual ataupun unschedule lah. So memang penekanan SPAN memastikan bahawa operator ini memberi tekanan yang mencukupi kepada pengguna dan mematuhi standard kualiti yang telah ditetapkan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan. Dan saya cakap tadi, bila aduan yang mengenai kualiti ini lebih kepada pematuhan kepada Kementerian Kesihatan punya parameter-parameter yang perlu dipatuhi. So gangguan bekalan air berjadual ni adalah pemberhentian bekalan yang telah dirancang disebabkan oleh kerja-kerja penyelenggaraan aset utama yang dilaksanakan secara berkala lah. So bila bekalan air berjadual ni, kerja henti tugas ini perlu melalui notis makluman kepada pengguna lebih awal. Sebagaimana yang sedia maklum, pada hari ini terdapat henti tugas logik yang menyebabkan gangguan bekalan air di sebahagian di daerah wilayah Petaling, di Kelang dan juga Shah Alam dalam tempoh 48 jam. So henti tugas pada hari ini di Kina Pasti dimaklumkan selama 48 jam dan so kerja-kerja pun akan mengambil masa dan kerja-kerja tersebut akan mengambil masa untuk dalam tempoh yang ditetapkan, dan bekalan mungkin akan pulih selepas sepenuhnya dalam tempoh 48 jam lah. So pelaksanaan kerja-kerja henti tugas ini, pihak operator bekalan air ini perlu mendapat kelulusan dengan SPAN. Maknanya kerja-kerja yang berjadual ataupun tidak berjadual tadi perlu mendapat kelulusan dari SPAN selari dengan peruntukan di bawah Seksyen 54 dan 55 Akta Industri Perkhidmatan Air. Apabila operator ini mengurangkan atau memberhentikan bekalan air itu, dia perlu mendapat kelulusan daripada pihak SPAN, dan permohonan perlu dibuat dalam tempoh 14 hari lah. So kita akan proses dan memberikan kelulusan dalam tempoh yang ditetapkan, dan notis makluman kepada pengguna ini perlu dibuat sebelum 7 hari pelaksanaan dia. So itu adalah gangguan bekalan air berjadual. Apa maksud manakala gangguan bekalan air yang tidak berjadual adalah pemberhentian bekalan air yang tidak tertancap di luar kawalan kita. Contohnya berlaku paip pecah tadi. So disebabkan mungkin tekanan yang tinggi, saya dah jelaskan tadi, dan mungkin disebabkan oleh pencemaran sumber air mentah. Banyak di Selangor sebelum ini berlaku pencemaran air mentah, dan mungkin juga berlaku tidak ada elektrik, menyebabkan loji perlu ditutup, dan di luar kawalan pihak operator bekalan air. Berlakunya banjir besar sebagaimana yang berlaku di Pahang pada tahun lepas. Banjir besar di Pahang, daripada rekod yang kita ada, 26 loji tidak beroperasi pada masa tersebut. 26 loji tidak beroperasi daripada 72 keseluruhan lah. So bayangkan dalam 26 ni banyak kawasan-kawasan yang akan mengalami gangguan bekalan air lah. Walau bagaimanapun bekalan air tidak berjadual ini, pihak operator diminta untuk memastikan dan meminimalkan gangguan bekalan air dan mengambil langkah sewajarnya seperti meminimalkan kawasan yang terlibat. Maksud saya, meminimalkan kawasan yang terlibat ni, dia kena mengenal pasti bila berlaku gangguan, dia kena susunkan balik dia punya sistem supaya kawasan yang lebih kecil mengalami gangguan dan tidak melibatkan kawasan yang lebih besar. Dan bagi gangguan bekalan air tidak berjadual ini, masa pemulihan ni akan bergantung pada jenis kerja pembaikan lah. Kita tak tahu kerja-kerja pembaikan tu bagaimana kaedahnya. Bila dah berlaku kecemasan dan berlaku kes baru, kita kena pasti. Dan tempoh pembaikan ni juga akan mengambil masa mengikut kaedah kerja yang dibuat.
Okay, Engineer Azrul, before that, I just would like to interject. This particular program is also aired via Facebook Live in Persatuan Forum Air Malaysia's page. So please tag, share, and invite your friends if anybody will be interested. And if you have any questions that you want to ask, please drop in the Q&A box or in the Facebook comment section. So we will pick it up if the comments are relevant to the topic. Otherwise, we will also try to answer separately. I just want to pick up satu point yang Engineer Azrul, because I was still thinking about this 40%. 40% pipe pecah, that literally means almost 40% case adalah unscheduled, right? Unscheduled. Betul? Tidak dirancang lah, kan? Kalau pipe tu pecah, is case tidak dirancang. Am I right, Engineer Azrul? Engineer Azrul, you are on mute. Jadi kan, so 40% tu tidak dirancang or unscheduled. So jadi in that case nampak macam case yang dirancang is actually very minimum. Sangat jarang lah. Contohnya case hari ini, case yang diberi notice untuk today, which is 30 Mac, kita diberi notice kan, I don't know 48 hours or 68 hours yang mereka ada bagi. So later saya nak Engineer Azrul explain to us lah, what does that 48 or 68 hours mean. But before that, is it possible, sebab kerja-kerja yang dirancang ni sangat far and few, jadi in between tu banyak yang tidak dirancang berlaku. I mean, kita ketepikan isu pencemaran di sumber air sebab memang that is very specific, very unique. Dia ada different way kan. Kalau kita tengok daripada selepas loji, kalau kerja-kerja dirancang maintenance work not proactively done, will it increase cases yang pipe pecah? I mean, from your view, what do you think? Is it sufficiently done, or maybe this could be one of the things that impacts?
So macam saya maklum tadi, kes 40% tu adalah kes pipe pecah dan selebihnya adalah kes-kes pengambilan, kes-kes aduan kualiti dan kes-kes lain yang berkaitan lah. Dan pada pandangan saya, kerja-kerja selain daripada itu memang melibatkan gangguan yang boleh ditangani oleh pihak operator bekalan air lah. Maksudnya kes-kes tu mudah dan boleh direkodkan untuk dilaksanakan kerja-kerja pembaikan dalam tempoh masa dia lah. Jadi untuk aduan yang lain daripada itu saya rasa mungkin telah pun dilaksanakan lah. Tadi soalan satu lagi tu apa Puan?
No, I'm wondering sama ada sebab yang dirancang ni is sangat jarang kita dapat kes-kes yang gangguan schedule kan. Jadi saya mungkinlah katakan yang dirancang setahun 3 kes yang dirancang. So in between tu sebab maintenance proactive maintenance tu dijarakkan macam tu jauh. Jadi in between tu mungkin berlaku kes pad pecah.
Ya, ya.
So that's why maybe a lot of cases kan biasa pop up dalam app, kita punya app ni is banyak yang tidak dirancang, right? So that I'm wondering is it because lack of regular maintenance yang causing unscheduled or unplanned disruption? What is your view, or is it, if that is the reason why that's happening? I know one of the reason may be tariff rendah and all those things, but something can be done. Yeah.
Salah satu faktor dia adalah tarif yang rendah ni relate to capital lah, pembangunan capital aset berkelan air. So memang saya cakap tadi bahawa terdapat faktor, contohnya kalau pipe pecah tadi, pipe yang telah berusia menyebabkan perlu kerja-kerja penggantian, dan ini melibatkan modal yang tinggi. Dan untuk kerja-kerja yang lain tu mengikut ketetapan yang telah ditetapkan, mengikut kes-kes yang berkaitan lah. Gangguan lain saya rasa yang saya jelaskan tadi lah, pemerintah is macam billing dan sebagainya.
Okay. Simon, how did you see this, Simon? Because it's like I think this is a chicken and egg situation, right? I mean, maintenance, proactive maintenance is always extremely high cost because kita try to repair benda yang belum rosak. So it's always, there's a price that we have to pay. So if I am a water operator, not to say, okay, thank God I'm not, likely I will wait for something to fail before I repair, because now I know for sure it had failed, rather than maintaining it and extending its life further. I wonder how in developed countries, because you have dealt pretty much in UK and Australia and all those things. I know our tariff is super different, right? But putting that aside, how they actually decide where they should focus their maintenance work at? How they do that?
Well, I think a lot of times we ought to look at things from a risk profiling perspective. So there's this thing called the probability of it happening and what's the impact, right? So in some of the countries that I work with, the asset management program, as in whether you replace a pump or replace a pipe, really depends on what is that impact and the probability of that happening, the consequence, we call it, right? So that is then used towards driving the asset management program, which is proposed by the operator, right? Towards say a 5-year program, looking into some of the statistical analysis of things like what's the asset useful life and what is that historical occurrence in a certain area. There's also things like systems that are put in place, for example, in terms of how do you manage the pressure within the water distribution network itself.
Okay.
A lot of times, this kind of pipe breakage, it happens during nighttime. And that's why it happens during nighttime, is because at night, the water demand is low, right? And when we have this kind of the same amount of pressure being put on the pipe when the demand is low, it creates excessive pressure at the low point. So there are technological advances that can be that are put in place, like having pressure sensors in certain strategic area to then regulate some of the operations of the pumps and so forth in order to minimize some of these pipe breakage. Obviously, there's also other things like there's condition assessment as well on the asset as well to ascertain whether the asset itself can withstand that kind of pressure or can still last how many years. So those kind of things actually are things that are done proactively before the pipe breakage actually happen.
Okay. I really think we have to bring up Simon again for a separate panel discussion because I think it's a lot to share. Interesting new ideas. Does that we still having that communication disruption? And
seriously?
why? Yeah,
you can't really hear me, is it, until now?
I heard you clear, but there's some disruption still.
Yeah. Okay.
So
sorry about that.
While at that, I just would quickly like to pose a question to the audience, both in Zoom as well as on Facebook. I would love to know your age group because we want to see that who are the audience that we're having at this hour of the day having conversation about water. So and I think that will help us design appropriate program to get that proper reach out. So if the organizer can just put up a quick poll, or if the participants in both Zoom and Facebook let us know. Oh yes, that's the question there. And the second question is, of course, what is your preferred time? Because we have a couple of requests to have this panel discussion in the afternoon session. So do let us know. And I also would like to give some update about the poll that we have done in the previous panel discussion. 86% of the respondents firmly believe water is a human right. So government has an obligation to provide for them. So it's not a luxury, it's a human right. And 73% willing to pay extra. So that should be a good news to water operators. So maybe during the economic panel group, we can have a conversation. So who actually do not want the price to go up? Is it the consumers or somebody else? So that'll be an interesting conversation because 73% kata dia nak naik. So Simon, back to this conversation that you were talking about measuring risk. When you're talking about measuring risk, we tend to measure the risk in a technical aspect, right? Technically, what is the, what is the damage, or technical in terms of engineering and financial. But I also feel the kind of risk we faced last year in Selangor was a social risk. We really do not know whether that was real or not, because that is a kind of difficult to measure, because the noise may not be equivalent to the number of damages or problem that people were facing. Do you have any idea? Do you think there's a way to measure that, or some other way to look at it? Engineer Azrul, I would love to hear on your perspective as well, once Simon done giving his feedback.
Yeah. I mean, that's always, I mean, from an engineering perspective, it's always that we are confined towards the technical risk and what's the direct benefit. I think you bring up a very valid point. A lot of this water supply disruption has a potential on the economy and on the social front as well. And those kind of damage, I'm not sure whether it has been adequately categorized or adequately quantified. Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it's hard to say what that quantum is, but I'm sure it does have a very significant impact every time you have water supply disruption on some of these businesses, or even the environment or the social impact itself.
Yeah, and Engineer Azrul, I think, and as Simon, I think there is a couple of questions. Probably I'll quickly pick it up. The first question is from James. His question is: water disruption in general have negative impact in context of communication and unhappiness of customers? I think almost similar to the question I just asked. Could I ask a sharing of a good work done by operators in various states, for example, of helping to ensure regular water distribution, or even good testimonies of water operators coming together to help during floods floods or other disruption? I think Engineer Azrul, maybe you can actually respond to this. Ini bukan soalan yang saya tanya tadi, a bit different. So I think what James actually want to know is, bila berlaku water disruption, does all the other state water operators come in together to solve this problem, especially dalam kes macam bencana alam atau pipe pecah lah, the big pipe pecah and whatever not. So does other state water operators come in? If they come in, how they come in? And whether, and second part is, if you have an example of a water operator of any state yang actually stepped up really in such a way that it should be called out. Kalau ada satu state water operator yang memang every time ada masalah, dia memang nombor satu untuk come and help. So this is more, I think, on a personal angle. People want to, kita nak humanize water operators sebab sekarang ramai marah. So kita nak humanize. We want to see them on the good side, the compassion side.
Okay, Puan Nita. Okey, saya nak komen mengenai bantuan daripada operator lain tadi. So memang pihak SPAN telah menetapkan apabila berlaku suatu krisis utama, sebagaimana yang saya mention tadi di Pahang, berlaku banjir besar dan 26 loji pada masa itu telah pun ditugas, dan pada masa itu bantuan kami di peringkat SPAN telah memanggil semua pada operator-operator lain untuk membantu dalam proses memberi bekalan air melalui lori tanker antara contohnya. Dan lori-lori tanker ini telah dimobilis ke Pahang, dan pihak operator telah menghantar beberapa daripada Johor, daripada Selangor, daripada Negeri Sembilan, dan ini adalah salah satu memorandum persemahaman yang telah dibuat oleh pihak SPAN antara semua operator. Apabila berlaku krisis di sesuatu negeri itu, so negeri lain akan membantu untuk pengguna di negara kita lah. Itu adalah salah satu alternatif dan perkeperluan yang kita telah tetapkan dalam penyediaan dan tata cara untuk menyelesaikan isu-isu krisis bila berlaku.
Okay. Nak tanya, so bila mereka hantar air ni, is it perlu dibayar oleh negeri yang terima atau memang dia hantar sebagai CSR, dia bantu saja?
Lebih kepada CSR.
That's good. So James, the question is answered. Our water operators are still socially responsible. Okay, James has a question. And second question is from Mr. Engineer Dore. So his question is, are there any analyses by operators or SPAN on risk of such disruption, both scheduled and unscheduled, in terms of profitability and impact, and commensurate mitigations, contingency strategies put in place? Example, if a disruption will affect millions of people and economic impact in tens and millions, it may warrant a capex intervention or more intensive preventive maintenance to mitigate such incidents. I think if I just want to reframe this question, I think lebih kepada Engineer Azrul, maybe Simon, you can respond to this as well after this. I think more of a question like going back kepada this especially on schedule disruption. We come to unscheduled after this. When it comes to schedule disruption, Engineer Azrul kata they have to apply 14 hari kurang-kurangnya kan sebelum mereka diberi kelulusan.
Yes,
contohnya lah, maybe boleh ambil contoh yang kes 48 hour punya interruption yang bermula hari ni. I think it's probably dekat kawasan perkilangan, right? It's factories, right? So I think this one probably can link to Mr. Dore punya question. There's a significant economic impact kepada this area sebab dia akan ganggu the businesses kat sini. So bila permohonan dibuat kepada SPAN, apa kaedah? Apa kaedah yang SPAN guna untuk menentukan yes, disruption ni diperlukan, and yes, mungkin bukan sekadar patching job, mungkin kena buat something yang lebih significant untuk avoid masalah ni. So macam mana macam mana SPAN analyze application dan buat keputusan?
Okey, bila operator bekalan air ini menghantar permohonan ke SPAN, kita akan menyimak permohonan tersebut berdasarkan garis panduan yang telah ditetapkan. Dan antara syarat yang kita mohon pihak operator berikan adalah menyai perancangan terperinci kerja yang perlu dibuat. Maknanya apabila berlaku kerja-kerja penyelenggaraan tadi, dia kena maklumkan apa terperinci kerja yang dibuat dan program rancangan pemulihan tadi. Dan pada masa yang sama juga kita minta pihak operator memastikan apabila kelulusan tadi, dia perlu memastikan bahawa tangki servis dan perkhidmatan masa henti tugas nanti telah pun dalam keadaan yang level yang penuh. Dan sekiranya ada bekalan air alternatif, kita menggalakkan dalam permohonan tadi dia akan mengasingkan, contohnya kawasan-kawasan industri yang kalau boleh dielakkan. Tapi untuk mungkin kes yang pada hari ini, kawasan industri yang tersebut memang adalah bekalan supply daripada kawasan yang daripada sumber air tersebut, mana dia akan terlibat dalam gangguan ini. Dan kita juga mensyaratkan bahawa pihak operator perlu memaklumkan kepada pengguna sekurang-kurangnya 7 hari sebelum penutupan. Maknanya dalam tempoh 7 hari ini pihak industri, pihak pengguna telah pun menyediakan langkah-langkah kawalan sebelum menakung air dan menyediakan tambahan untuk sebelum pada tarikh tugas loji yang berlaku pada hari inilah. Dan pengguna boleh menyimpan dan menggunakan air secara berhemah. Dan kita juga telah minta operator untuk menghantar atau memastikan bekalan air kepada premis kritikal seperti hospital dan juga pusat dialisis tidak terjejas. Ini memang syarat kita, maknanya hospital dan pusat dialisis ni dia akan ada operator ni akan menghantar melalui lori tanker ke dia punya suction tank ataupun tangki servis dia supaya di premis ini tidak ada gangguan. Dan manakala macam industri tadi, dia boleh membeli air itu melalui filling station yang telah disediakan oleh pihak operator bekalan air lah. Itulah antara syarat yang telah disediakan. Dan kita juga mensyaratkan bahawa tarikh pelaksanaan henti tugas ini dia 7 hari sebelum perayaan utama, perayaan utama seperti perayaan utama yang telah digazetkan lah, dan juga 7 hari selepas perayaan utama. Dalam tempoh perayaan tu memang tidak boleh ada henti tugas berlaku lah. Dan juga pada salah satunya juga adalah seperti peperiksaan utama yang baru-baru ni SPM. So dalam tempoh SPM tu tak ada. So maknanya kita dah memang tarikh yang dimohon tu adalah tarikh yang sesuai untuk dilaksanakan henti tugas lah. Dan kita pun untuk yang beragama Islam nanti dah tak lama lagi akan ada bulan puasa So maknanya kerja-kerja henti tugas ini telah dibuat sebelum pelaksanaan event-event seperti yang saya sebutkan tadi.
So dia selepas SPM dan sebelum puasa. So it makes sense actually that situation. Tapi okay, I get the part yang timing. Okay, the timing you adjust such a way that it doesn't significantly disrupt events macam ni. Number 2 is facilities medical lah, contohnya macam hospital and all those stuff. Fantastic. What about PPR? Because sebab dalam panel discussion yang sebelum ni, which is on social perspective, one of the panelists did mention that some of the frustration could be dalam untuk kawasan-kawasan yang mid and higher income group, lori memang pergi easy for them to collect, tapi dalam kawasan low cost PPR, heavy dense dan rumah pun bukan 3 orang 4 orang, rumah mungkin 6 orang 7 orang. So are there any consideration yang SPAN ambil semasa mengkaji permohonan ni untuk memastikan kawasan-kawasan yang low income, yang ada all these affordability issue, contohnya dia mungkin tak boleh pergi hotel dan tinggal, mungkin dia terpaksa beli air dan gunakan, so tak boleh beli air. So is there any consideration of that parameter in your evaluation?
Ya, bila henti tugas ni, kita nak kena tengok daripada dari segi sistem agihan kawasan tu. So memang kita kalau boleh untuk mengelakkan kawasan apa ni macam tadi lebih kepada industri dan hospital. Bagi yang Puan mention tadi, contoh perumahan di PPR biasanya memang pihak operator ni telah meletak tangki-tangki statik lah untuk boleh digunakan dalam tempoh semasa gangguan bekalan air inilah. Itu salah satu, dan juga sebenarnya pihak kalau di Selangor ni, Syahbaz ni dia ada filling station yang di luar daripada kawasan tidak mengalami gangguan ni. So maknanya pengguna boleh mengambil bekalan air tadi di dalam luar kawasan yang tidak terlibat dengan gangguan. Tapi macam mention tadi, untuk kawasan yang spesifik pada PPR ni, pada pandangan saya memang tidak, perkara ini memang sukar untuk kita elakkan lah. Kecuali kalau sistem tu boleh dah mempunyai penyambungan ataupun konektiviti yang kawasan-kawasan tu kita dah keluar daripada kawasan yang tidak terlibat dengan gangguan tadi.
Yeah, maybe that will be one of the component where industry or some think tank group or research group yang can figure out, can give some suggestion kepada SPAN on this affordability risk metric as well. So on that, right, I would like to check in with Simon. So Simon, like, what is the risk metrics or risk parameters that you have seen being used beyond the one that what Engineer Azrul have shared just now? Because I think that is pretty fundamental. Those areas that he was talking about when he's talking about hospitals and dialysis centers and the timing, because you don't really want to disrupt huge important events, right? So besides that, have you seen any, and I raise on affordability, have you seen any other risk metrics that you feel that should be brought in as well? Taking into consideration climate change, Simon, we are having another issue on that as well. Getting prepared for that. So what is your take?
Yeah. I think the issue of climate change is one that is highly sensitive. Again, I believe there's something that the government agencies are currently addressing. But I want to touch on we manage some of these risks. And I believe a lot of times when we look into water supply disruption, there are many angles to look at. It involves the entire water cycle, right? From your climate change right through to how do we ensure that the raw water quality that is used for water treatment plant is suited to be treated by the water treatment plant itself, so that we avoid this kind of disruption, down to the design and operation of the plant. All right. So some of these issues around the plant water supply disruption, at times we look into various criticality of the premise or the customers that the operators are serving. So, for example, if you're talking about a hospital, right? Sometimes we may have to look at considering whether it makes sense to duplicate a water main, for example, right? So that in the event one of the water main needs to be replaced, or there's one of the water main bursts, you still have another water supply coming from another source, or could be the same source, but at least you still have another pipe that is still functioning. So during that period of time, then you may experience a bit of a low water pressure, but at least these critical assets are still getting the necessary water supply from the grid. So these are I think various things that can be looked at, I guess, from a risk perspective. Yeah, it's a bit hard to say which angle we can look at unless we have some of these data to be able to analyze, I think.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Simon. So we have a couple more minutes left. So before we wrap up this panel discussion for today, I have one more poll question that I would like the organizer to flag it up. Where strengthening is required in managing water disruption mechanism, that most of you have heard some context to it. I know there is a lot more. If you want to really go on the engineering part, the operability, implementing it, and I think Engineer Azrul also have talked in a simple way, but really, Engineer Azrul, there are other consideration, traffics, what is, I mean, everything is underground, kan? Well, underground utilities and fiber, optic cables, all that running. So those are physical challenges. So having all this in mind, I would like to hear from the audience in both Zoom as well as Facebook, where strengthening is required in managing water disruption mechanism from your perspective. Is it the technological tool? Is it management efficiency? Or is it the governance structure? So it's a quick poll, so give us your feedback and let's see how it goes. And before we end the program, I have a question to both panelists. Simon, riding on what Simon said in the end, in order for people to come up and give their view or suggestion or be more empathetic about the problems that is being faced by either industry players, regulators, and public, there are certain information and data is required, right? There's always this is something that will help people to rationalize and probably lepas they react first marah and then to now calm down and be more reasonable, right? So I would like to know from SPAN angle, Engineer Azrul, do you think that the communication, public outreach plans that being put in place right now to address water disruption and the way of information to being disseminated, do you think that is sufficient, or you think there are SPAN is exploring different ways of engaging? But I can say that the one is, of course, the press release. The most recent incident, they actually give a press release, and of course, all of us can check on the app. But do you think there'd be other ways to actually reach out, more information to be shared? Contohnya, information berkaitan dengan how big is this pipe? How much water it's going? How old is the pipe? How many years that particular pipe has been? So do you think more things can be done? Will SPAN explore this? Or you think that the current approach is actually effective? And I would like to, after Engineer Azrul punya respon, would like to hear from Simon.
Okay, saya berpandangan bahawa komunikasi dan pemakluman kepada pengguna ni adalah berkesan lah. Sebagai contohnya yang berlaku di sekarang ni di Lembah Kelang, maknanya semua masyarakat lebih telah maklum awal bahawa henti tugas ni telah pun berlaku. Mana kami di peringkat SPAN pun ada banyak permohonan yang diterima dan juga terdapat daripada sebahagiannya daripada industri yang memohon supaya henti tugas ini ditunda. Tapi perkara ini telah pun mengikut ketetapan garis panduan yang telah ditetapkan oleh SPAN, maknanya perancangan tu telah dibuat dan pemakluman tu menunjukkan keberkesanan lah pemakluman tu kepada masyarakat luar dan sedia maklum, maknanya tempoh tadi itu telah berupaya memastikan bahawa pengguna telah pun bersedia. Jadi saya berpandangan macam di Selangor telah menggunakan saluran media sosial seperti Facebook, Twitter, Instagram dan sebagainya mempromosikan ditugas ni berlaku dalam tempoh pada hari ini yang sehingga 1 April. Jadi saya berpandangan bahawa memang perancangan ataupun yang telah dibuat oleh bahagian komunikasi operator itu adalah baiklah dan pemakluman kepada media massa.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Azrul. Simon, do you want to say anything on communication, public outreach, sharing, dissemination of information?
Well, I think I think the water operators in Malaysia has done very well in terms of communicating with the customers. What I thought my just based on my observation, sometimes because I'm more of a technical guy, it's just there are things like some of that root cause analysis. What is the cause of certain disruption? That ought to, if that can be shared with the public, I think that would help the public understand why certain disruption happens. And if you're talking about water pollution, for example, in the raw water source, in the river itself, some of these root causes, if they are published, I think it will also help to create awareness amongst the public about the importance of the river, and that that will help them to try to educate themselves about not polluting the river. So I guess there's a lot of that kind of data sharing that can be done to try and promote that kind of awareness with the customer as well as with various stakeholders that are involved in either governance or regular or enforcement of this water services industry.
Okay. And then before we end the session, there is a comment from one of the participants. They feel like the communication with industry players and public should be organized regularly. Actually, I pernah receive komen ni juga dalam one of my posts in LinkedIn. What they say is biasanya bila water operators comes out and issue a statement is always bila ada masalah. So that bila benda tu berlaku, so people assume water operators hanya ada masalah, nothing else. But actually there's a lot of other things are happening. So they suggested that, so when I was sharing with them the other things they're doing, they said then why they're not being shared. So I think actually what being suggested by the Bryce Lim is actually very true. Probably there should be regular communication, not only when there is a disruption, then I think it will be really an effective thing. And last but not least, thank you very much for all the participants who joined us on Facebook as well as Zoom. And before we say good night for the day, I would like Engineer Azrul to come up and share with us what is just one word from you as a regulator. Would like to see if you feel when pipe dipecahkan and menyebabkan disruption, do you feel that action must be taken by water operators? Saman orang yang pecahkan that pipe. Kalau pipe tu bukan sebab pipe tu aging lain cerita. Tapi biasa pipe pecah ni, kontraktor jalan pecahkan, buat telefon pecahkan kan. So, what do you say about that? Do you think that public should sue them or the operator should sue them?
Yang tu memang dah ada dalam tata cara. Maknanya kalau pipe pecah disebabkan oleh pihak ketiga, memang ada tindakan yang boleh diambil ke atas yang memecahkan pipe tadi berdasarkan undang-undang, dan juga pihak operator akan claim balik dari segi kerugian kehilangan air dan juga kerugian pekerja ataupun dia punya kos-kos yang terlibat untuk menyelesaikan membaiki pipe tersebut lah. Dan saya berpandangan memang kita dah ada undang-undang tu, dan perkara tu pihak operator akan memaklumkan kepada pihak SPAN untuk tindakan-tindakan yang berkaitan berdasarkan peruntukan yang ada.
Okay, so thank you very much Engineer Azrul for participating in this conversation with us. Thank you very much Simon. Thank you to the organizers and everyone who waited until 9:36 right now. And please join us for the next session next week on 6 March. We will talk about causes of water disruption in terms of water source, treated water, like all these problems that we have in terms of quality or even in terms of quantity, as well as impacts due to climate change. So do join us on the 6th. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.